Good. Admitting now. Excellent. Good morning, everyone. Steve.
Hi, good morning, everybody. Joining from Washington and good afternoon to those joining in from Iraq or elsewhere out in the region.
You want to turn your camera
Here at the onset, if we can ask everybody to begin by kindly muting yourselves, that would be wonderful. We will have some time where we'll open things up for comments or questions, but in order to minimize the background noise, if everybody could please mute yourselves, that's much appreciated. Greetings from Washington. My name is Steve Lutz, president of our U.S.-Iraq Business Council at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, joined by my colleague, Anna Burris, who actually manages and runs things in the day-to-day, and I think is known to all on here. We really do appreciate everybody making time to join us. We know that you have busy schedules, and we really do value you making the time and the effort to be with us. There's so many options in the virtual space. In addition, as we start to going back and doing a lot in person. So we're grateful for the investment that you're making with your time to be here with us today. Today's conversation with Her Excellency Suha Najjar, the chairwoman of the National Investment Commission, in many ways is a continuation of events that we've had, since Suha, since you've been in this job, but here most recently, the visit by His Excellency Prime Minister Al-Khatami. I know we wanted to hear further from you and do more of a deeper dive in what is going on at the National Investment Commission with your plans, with your priorities, and understand the direction that you're taking things. And that's really the purpose of today, is to hear from you directly. And as we have discovered with these virtual sessions, we do like to have the interaction. I think what people get a lot of is having the actual engagement, the dialogue. So we do look forward to using the remainder of the time after we hear from you to open it up for comments or questions. I also want to just take a moment to recognize, I know we have and we'll hear from shortly, Ambassador Fareed Yassin, advocate and really an ally of the Chamber and the Council and supporter of the U.S. business community and the overall relationship, of course, but in particular, the commercial and investment ties between our two countries. I also want to mention and note that we're joined by Her Excellency Bayan Rahman, the KRG's representative here in the United States, and we appreciate the partnership that we've had with her and her efforts as well. And then we have, I know, a number of folks from Embassy Baghdad and others in the U.S. government. And I want to mention somebody who's relatively new, but I think will quickly join our efforts and is already, I should say, has already got involved. Steve Simpson out at U.S. Embassy Baghdad, the senior trade and commercial officer there at the embassy, and his team, Strangers to None, James Nussbaumer, and many others. And of course, we're joined, I know, by the co-chairs of our council. I saw both our friends from Hillwood and Baker Hughes on here and many other of our member companies. And we do appreciate you all taking time out of the day. Dr. Suha, before we turn to you, I did want to give the opportunity again to our friend Ambassador Yassin for any welcoming comments, observations he may have. Ambassador, let me turn it over to you here at the Open.
Hello, Steve. Hello, Anna. Good afternoon to those in Baghdad. Good morning to those in Washington. So I have actually 3 points that I'd like to make. First, this is a good day today. So just mentioned that she's been having meetings with a number of representatives of major economic powers. On our end here in Washington, I'm engaged in 2 activities that I think are worth mentioning. The first is this one, which I need not tell you more about, you're here. But the other is an event that will take place at 3 o'clock this afternoon, and during which the United States is going to return to Iraq a priceless piece of our history, which is the so-called Gilgamesh Dream Tablet, which was retrieved by U.S. authorities. And the event is of such significance that the Director General of UNESCO has come specially to witness it, because it ties in with their efforts at promoting the restitution of global artifacts to their rightful places. So this is, and then the third, actually, of course, as you know, the United Nations General Assembly is taking place. There's an Iraqi delegation there. Our President Barham Saleh is supposed to speak, I think, tomorrow or yesterday, or no, I think tomorrow. Yesterday, he spoke at the Council on Foreign Relations. So we're present, we're engaged. So this is a good day for Iraq in terms of activities. The second element that I wanted to mention to you is that I just came back from Baghdad. To me, that was an important trip because of the pandemic, because of various events. I hadn't been in I think 20 months, which is the longest I've been away from Iraq since 2003. Prior to that, of course, I hadn't been in 28 years, but for reasons we don't need to go into right now. But I'll come back, I don't know, frustrated and exasperated to a certain degree because I had to deal with some bureaucracy, you know what I'm talking about, but extremely helpful at what was going on. I mean, actually, I had fun. I had great fun in Baghdad. There's a thriving restaurant scene. There are social activities going on, and what I also did, which I hadn't done in a while, was to go down south. I went to Nasiriyah with one of my colleagues who has a thriving farm, which really serves, to me at least, to underscore the agricultural potential of Iraq, which is completely untapped. And I would really urge you, once you decide to go, to check it out and to see what potentialities there are there. It's really remarkable how quickly agriculture flourishes once you put your mind to it and give it the resources that are necessary. The third thing that I wanted to highlight is this event and its participants. Thank you all for being here. But I wanted to say something especially about Dr. Suha Najjar, who is I should say, relatively recent friend. I mean, I hadn't known her earlier, but what I can tell you is that she brings to this job things that are essential and needed, and may have been missed, previously. As you know, Iraq was sort of closed from the international community for practically 40 years, and so the first thing that she brings to the table is a very solid, significant international experience. She knows how things are done in places where best practices is carried out. She has the credentials, she has the know-how, and she has started, a significant effort to upgrade and speed up the work of investment in Iraq, trying to simplify things for you investors, for our trade partners. The other thing that she brings to the table is that she has also significant private sector experience, which Iraq, having been a government-directed economy, really lacked. So that's another aspect that she brings in that will help promote a new Iraqi economy. And the third thing that she brings to the table is, I think, her familiarity with, the banking structures, the financial structures that are needed to promote whatever major projects we want to undertake in Iraq. So I'm really very pleased to have her address you. I will beg your forgiveness. I have to go and prepare for this other event, so I won't be staying, but I know that I'm leaving you in excellent hands, people who know what to do and how to do it better than anybody else, the Chamber and Suha Najjar. Over to you, Steve.
Ambassador, thank you very much. And your words are very much appreciated. And it's very interesting to know about that that event today taking place with UNESCO, and a really important milestone. And you've really done, I have to say, you couldn't have done a better job of introducing Suha. You hit all the key points. And I think as the chamber, as the voice.
Sorry, Steve, I missed the most important one. She's a hell of a lady.
Very nice, very nice. Well, it had to say as the chamber, as the voice of the private sector, it's always reassuring, when you see, somebody in a key position that does have the extensive and rich, private sector background, Suha, that you bring to the table. The ambassador's seen hit on all the points, I think, but from your starting out your career at JP Morgan as an equity analyst, I know that you founded your own financial services company that focused on Iraq, that you spent time advising regional governments on privatization programs and promoting regional investment opportunities with institutional and strategic partners. And of course, your academic background, earning a PhD in economics from Sussex and master's in both economics and finance from the University of London. So you bring that academic expertise and the real world private sector experience to the table. And again, have that rich understanding, I think, of the dynamics of the relationship and what is needed to help carry things forward. So with that, Suha, we'll turn things over to you. We really look forward to hearing your comments, your remarks, and then we'll use the remaining time that we have to open things up for comments and questions from all those who have gathered with us today. So Dr. Suha, with that, we turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Steve. Thank you, Ambassador Farid, if you're still listening to us. I'm humbled by this introduction, and I do hope I can meet your expectations, even though just if it's only part of it. I think the world does not really know what's happening in Iraq today, and I hope to shed light on that. And I might sound too optimistic, but I assure you everything I'm going to mention today is based on a fact and numbers. As you know, we've taken over, or we were brought to this government almost a year ago. In fact, 2 days ago was my anniversary, first anniversary, so I've been in this post for a year. And most of the cabinet has been just before me, a couple of weeks before me. We've taken some bold and important measures that I believe no previous governments were able to do them. Nevertheless, we took them. We feel the impact of them today. These measures, of course, I'm going to focus on the finance, economics, and on the investment side. The most important step that we've taken as a government is the devaluation of the Iraqi dinar. Even though we faced a lot of resistance, and I like to be very frank in our discussion, we're a highly politicized system. We have a lot of parties, and sometimes decisions and measures have to take the political landscape into question. But I think we're given the space to operate professionally and follow the economic needs rather than the political formulas that dictated the path of the economy in the past. So devaluing the currency faced a lot of resistance, but I assure you that it did not really affect the average individual, because the basket, the consumption basket in Iraq is 70% of it is towards local produce. So the impact was not great on the quality of life for the Iraqi population, but the impact of it was the increasing our foreign reserves, which were being depleted by the currency auction. So we were able to protect our foreign reserves. We were able to protect maintain inflation at a stable level. But most importantly, we directed the banking operation from like some of you might not be familiar, but for those who are familiar with the landscape here will understand the impact of it. The banking sector was active in the currency auction, but now they are moving their operation into real lending, the credit market, and that has direct impact on investments, because we do have a weak banking system, but it's being strengthened by this devaluation effort. We also made a bold move in reducing the expenses and the wage bill. We froze any public hiring, so hiring by the public sector. We changed a great deal in the managerial and senior position in almost all government institutions, and now the majority of it is technocrats, professionals, let's say party neutral individuals, and this is why you see the economy now is starting to move in the right direction. the investment projects that we've been awarded or announcing recently, at least from the, well, at least we are the only entity that announces, puts out investment projects. They are all being done in public tenders. We're working with international advisors on the legal side and on the financial side to give us proper advice on structuring those deals. We're seeing proper competition. We're attracting international names, and we are doing things the way that the City of London and Wall Street work. We have international advisors working with us on the legal and the financial side. The projects are being allocated in a transparent and competitive way. These measures sound normal in an ordinary world, but Iraq, we face a lot of challenges, and I assure you that conducting those measures have had, we had to be bold to do it. We did it, we succeeded, and we're seeing the impact of it. Of course, these measures had an impact. Some of it is short term, some of it is long term, but on the macro level and on the investment level, our foreign reserves are up, and as foreign investors, you will know that the size of the foreign reserves is an important indicator in the economy because it protects the currency and the monetary system. So we have now sufficient foreign reserves that cover us for over a year in terms of our exports. We're going to have, I expect, positive growth in 2021 and possibly 22. I mean, it's positive news, but I think it's because of the oil price has gone up, and as you know, over 70% of our economy is generated by oil. Nevertheless, having positive GDP growth is good news. On the current account, we always have a surplus, but this surplus is going to widen because first we're protecting the currency, and two, we're having protective measures of our local product. So a number of macro indicators that we are seeing going in the right direction, and positive trend in those, and hopefully this positive trend will continue. So this background, I think, was important because structurally we have a weak economy, and but we're fixing that. We're fixing that on the fiscal side, we're fixing that on the monetary side, we're fixing that on the foreign dealings and the current account side. And all these things, even though they take a long time, we're seeing some impact of them on the short term. Now, from my side, on the investment front, and how is the investment scene being impacted by this? As you all know, they say capital is a coward, but it's something that I've always known. I will make another statement. Even though capital is a coward, but capital has foresight. I've been in the investment arena for 30 years. And usually when you see capital starting in a market and behaving in a certain way, then you know that things are on the up. From my side, we're being flooded by foreign investors, and I'm talking real foreign investors. You might have heard that we signed a historic by all proportions deal with Total last week for 28 billion. And this is an integrated complex with mostly power and water projects. On the solar energy, we conducted a public tender, and we attracted the who's who in the solar field. This tender was done in a collaboration with all the relevant ministries, and we allocated the projects, or let's say the stations, to the best bidder, not just based on price, but based on qualification. So today, the public tenders, the allocation of land and projects is happening in a transparent and competitive way. So no deals behind closed doors. This is really important for those who know Iraq. All the transactions now are going into the right hands. With this backdrop, what are we going to do, or what are we currently doing at the NIC? There's one measure that we've taken that I forgot to mention initially, but this measure was the talk of town for a long time. We have cancelled hundreds of previous licenses that were given in corrupt manners, or let's say that went into the wrong hands. Of course, this was, I think, instructed by the Prime Minister, but I say that this is one of the most courageous moves that we've taken, because a lot of those projects belong to certain people, but we have put the economic interests at the forefront of our priorities. And when I say we're taking some bold moves, we are certainly taking a very bold move. What this resulted in is that, one, we recouped a lot of the government assets, but also those who were like, half-hearted about finishing their projects. So what Ambassador Farid mentioned earlier, that we're seeing a lot of work on the economic activities, and a lot of those are because we threatened to withdraw all those projects. So we're seeing a lot of activities on those. And so where does our investment strategy sit in all that? Our investment strategy is clear. It focuses on three angles. The first one is diversifying the economic base. This is a critical necessity in Iraq today, because oil is on its way out. We are an economy that relies almost like 100% on oil. So we have to diversify our economic base in the oil sector, but also outside. So with that, we have offered a number of industrial projects. Next week, we will announce the start of one of the largest Agri food processing projects in the whole of the Middle East. It's a project that was built in the 80s, but has been neglected. It's on a vast area of land. It's between two of the middle provinces. For those who know Iraq, it's in Wasat. This project, once completed, it will lead to self-sufficiency in dairy products. It took a lot of time to get it done. Unfortunately, bureaucracy, we're trying to get over bureaucracy slowly but surely. But this project, the work on that is going to start next week. It really is a substantial project, and we expect it to revive a number of provinces in the middle region because of the number of employees it will have. Also, within the diversification efforts as well, we're offering some tourism projects. If you followed the visit of the Pope, we're still flooded by foreign tourists. Unfortunately, we do not have the infrastructure to accommodate them. Our tourism is not going to be just religious tourism, because everybody thinks we're just not going to offer to. Iraq is a beautiful country. For the Iraqis out there, and for those who didn't visit Iraq, I urge you to come to Iraq and let us show you Iraq for what it is. Iraq is a beautiful country. It has a very diverse geography and very rich heritage. And literally across Iraq, I mean, one of the challenges that we face when we get building permits is that the project doesn't get completed because underneath it is either oil or ruins. So this is really Iraq for you. So again, in the southern, the central, and the northern provinces, we are reviving some touristic projects, and these will be simple, just building some resorts and some hotels, because the world is focusing on Iraq after the Pope visit, and we need to accommodate them. We're talking to a number of regional and international companies to come and develop fully integrated resorts and hotel compounds in a number of provinces. I was in Mosul a couple of weeks ago, and I was astonished by the rebuilding effort that's taking place currently in Mosul from internal funds. We did not allocate any money in the budget, but it's the same people who managed to gather their funds and rebuild it. But Mosul needs a tremendous rebuilding effort. We've established a committee for rebuilding Mosul, but Mosul offers a number of projects to restore it from the damage that happened, either ISIS, but also for generic growth. So on the diversification effort, we're offering some industrial, agriculture, and tourism, and these are the three sectors that we're focusing on. The second angle of our strategy, which I should have mentioned first, is building the infrastructure. One of the main problems that we're facing in Iraq is the poor infrastructure, because to build a house, to build a factory, you need roads, you need electricity, you need water, and unfortunately, we've gone through 40 years of. It's actually much more than 40 years. I mean, there hasn't been like proper restoration of our infrastructure, which faced a lot of damage in the sequence of political conflicts that Iraq faced. The focus has been on electricity because, as you know, it's a necessity, but also now we're working closely with the Ministry of Housing to offer a number of toll roads to investors. There's a couple of water desalination projects in the south. We're discussing with a couple of companies, one of them is a French company, of building a rail network across Iraq. And of course, there's two major road projects, the fourth and the fifth ring road. We're working with a number of consultants. We will offer part of those as for investment purposes. Infrastructure projects are a big part of what we're doing today. One, the size of them is in the billions, and Iraq needs a whole rebuild of its infrastructure in every aspect, in transportation, airports, rail, water, electricity, sewage. The beauty about the infrastructure projects, because there's always a sort of government commitment in them, so they probably are the least risky for those with big tickets who are looking to come into Iraq, because it's always offered with either slight offtake or a guarantee of some sort. On the infrastructure front, we have investors now, and when I say investors, I am talking about the who's who in the respective sectors. We have allocated a number of solar energies, 5 projects with a total of 7,500. Total, Masdar, Aqua, Scatic, and Power China. The tool when we offer them, and once they get ready. So infrastructure is a very important aspect of what the National Investment Commission is doing in collaboration with the relevant ministries. Last but not least, and I touched on that earlier, is developing the provinces. Unfortunately, because of the unfortunate events that Iraq faced over the past decades, some of our provinces are primitive. We need to work on those, and these again in the south, a lot of our provinces will need rebuilding. And on those, we're working on housing projects and social projects, because housing is the first thing that any individual needs. And we're offering housing projects in 2 directions. One, through the Ministry of Housing, and these are budgets funded by the budget, and these are literally construction. At the National Investment Commission, we're collaborating with the provinces and the relevant ministries, and we're offering housing projects across Iraq in an initiative that's called the National Housing Initiative, to build 2 million units. We've just offered a project in Maysan. We have an existing one in Baghdad, and one of the most exciting projects that we're looking at today is a project called Rufail. Rufail is a project that we announced 2 months ago. It's a city. It's a city with all its amenities. It's not outside Baghdad, it's actually in the area around Baghdad International Airport. As you know, urban expansion, and unfortunately, it hasn't happened in a regular or a regulated manner in Iraq because of the various reasons. What we're doing today is we are regulating and organizing urban expansion. We want Iraq to remain a beautiful country. This is why we have to regulate the expansion. So what we're doing, and this is also a 4th angle of our strategy, is that we're doing master plans for new cities. We're working on one in Basra now. We've just got the approval from the cabinet for Al-Ghazaliya camp, which used to belong to the Ministry of Defense, and now we're converting that into a city. We're working with international architects, and Iraq has a number of renowned ones. So we're working with a number of Iraqi architects with the University of Baghdad and putting master plans across Iraq for urban expansion to move into integrated cities. The first one, as I said, is Abu Fail, which is in Baghdad. It's on an area of 106,000 donum. The donum is 2,500 square meters. So I don't know the conversion, you'll have to work it out. But it's a massive area. We allocated 2 plots to regional companies. And we are going to offer 8 projects as the first phase over the next 2 weeks. And these will have housing projects, entertainment projects. Some of them are educational, some of them are medical. And this is on the around Baghdad airport. At the other side of Baghdad, we're working on another master plan. So you'll see a boom in cities, new cities in Iraq, because Iraq has the highest population growth rate in the world, and we have to regulate that. And when we regulate it, we want to ensure that the expansion of the city is happening in a proper manner, and it gives assurances for international companies. And we're going to have to struggle allocating those projects because the amount of competition on them is mind-blowing. So this is what's happening in Iraq. This is our strategy. I like to look at the glass half full, not half empty. From where I sit, I think it's increasing the half. So our glass, and regardless of what you hear, unfortunately, we're not good at marketing ourselves, but Iraq is starting something good, and economically, financially, and on the investment front. And I think we're only seeing just the beginning. Thank you.
Dr. Suha, thank you very much. You covered a lot of ground from kind of the overarching economic architecture and some of the reforms being made, and then specifically walking us through the investment strategy and the different aspects of that. I'll turn first to our 2 co-chairs for a comment or question, and then I know Mohammed at Procter & Gamble has a question. But first, I want to just ask if I can, at the Chamber, one thing we talk about, investment, oftentimes you think of tangible projects or bricks and mortar thing, but there's also the soft side to investment. And I think this is so important in Iraq going forward, and would welcome your thoughts on this, even if it's not a direct responsibility of the National Investment Commission. But can you speak to the importance you would place on, investing in human capital, building up the human talent, investing in healthcare, investing in the digital infrastructure? So not just the big projects, as you mentioned, but what are your thoughts on how important do you weight those things, even if they're not directly under your responsibility, knowing that, in the mid-long term, I think those things are absolutely fundamental to the country's future. So what are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely, and we're focusing on them. We're working 24/7 to cover all those grounds, but without human capital, it's actually one of the main challenges that we face today. Because of the situation in Iraq, a lot of the talents migrated. And unfortunately, the education system, because of that, deteriorated. So it's one of the struggles that I'm really having here. And I talk to my counterparts in the various ministries. We will have to just, emphasize on training programs, and I've asked my colleagues here to open a dialogue, and we would really look for your help on this, on the CFA programs, because at the Investment Commission, this is a very, very relevant program. It's 3 years. We can have the classes here in Iraq or even online, and they can do the test in Jordan. But CFA is something that I really need to bring into Iraq. So we're identifying some training courses to train our young human capital. Unfortunately, in the ministries here, because we have frozen employment in the public sector for a number of years now, most of the people you see in the ministries and the public government entities our bureaucrats. And even though we're a country that opened up 17 years ago, we remain very much a centralized economy. Not centralized in the classic sense, but everything needs to go back to the government for approvals, and you just have to interact a lot with the government here. So we need to bring in new blood. Now, this new blood will need training. So at the Commission, I'm emphasizing on training, and I know the Finance Minister is emphasizing on training. We're talking also to a number of universities, and again, I like to be very frank, but we've had a number of private universities being established over the past few years, but I don't think their education system is really strong. So we're talking to a number of investors in Rufai City that I just mentioned about bringing in some like, like for example, somebody is talking to Oxford University to bring in some highly specialized courses. So in the investment, on the investment side, we will offer licenses for private universities, but we have to make sure of the curriculum, and we'll have to make sure they have a renowned, reputable name with them. So that's on the human capital, but it's a problem that we face. I don't think we're going to solve that in the short term. We are trying, but we're really short of qualified capital. This is a big problem that we have here. We will address it. We're trying to address it, but this will take time. In terms of the healthcare, we license private hospitals, and we keep doing this. We have an issue with the regulation here, is that you cannot have a partnership. So you cannot have, for example, a government hospital run by the private sector. We're trying to find ways around it, or maybe amend the law. But as far as the Commission is concerned, we will license, and we will license some hospitals in the Rufai city and across Iraq. The public healthcare system here is quite poor. We have, I think, 22 hospitals that have been built by a Turkish contractor and that are closed currently because we don't have enough staff to run them. So this is why we're trying to crack this problem of having them run by private companies. And I think we will solve that because we have to. We solve that, you will see a new model of PPP really in the healthcare system, where hospitals being funded by the government but run privately. In terms of the digital economy, automation is our only way out of this horrendous bureaucracy that we live in. I mean, I take 4 suitcases of mail, paper mail with me home every day, and I spend 4 hours every night reading every paper. If my colleague next door wants to talk to me, he sends it in a letter, and I have to read it and reply back in a letter. This is how ridiculous it is. So we're trying to automate the National Investment Commission. I think automating the economy will have a quantum leap on the Iraqi economy, because I tell you, the bureaucracy and the time we as officials spend reading those papers is time consuming, is hectic, and I mean, honestly, those 4 hours reading the mail I can spend, on actual projects. So each ministry and each commission in its own right is trying to automate. Again, I don't think this is something that will be done in a matter of months. It will also depend on the willingness of each minister, but we're pressing ahead at the National Investment Commission, at the Ministry of Finance. But automation is a must. That's at the government level. At the young level, I'm going to tell you something interesting that I should have mentioned earlier. We had an initiative last week called Invest in Youth. We had it as just, an event at the National Investment Commission. And we've been inundated with TV channels, BBC, Sky News, even Jazeera. And I have the World Bank in my office today, all wanting to promote this initiative. What we had, because we don't have a banking system here, and there's no private equity firms or venture capital firms here. So we have to do it ourselves in funding the young crowd. So we had like 4 young entrepreneurs and the business community, 20 investors, and they were all funded. The 8 projects, out of the 8 projects, 6 of them are digital projects. And some very brilliant ideas, really some brilliant ideas. The forum that we had last week was extremely successful because we were looking for 700,000, we raised 6 million. 6 million. So we're going to have this as a periodical initiative and a periodical event. But the awareness, let's say the digital awareness, I'm a bit old, so I'm not very much into the digital world, so my terminology is not up to date. But the awareness of the young population in Iraq, the young population in Iraq is only going in that direction. We just need to promote them, we need to support them, and we need to fund them. And on that, we managed to find the venue to fund them, but there's thousands of them out there. I hope this answers your questions.
Yeah, no, thank you. So you covered, again, a lot of important ground, and I think a lot of areas for collaboration and that we can take offline and pursue. But I wanted to first turn, ironically, both Matt and Matt, but Matt Armstrong at Baker Hughes, then Matt at Hillwood. And then I know Mohammed at Procter & Gamble, you had a comment or question, and then we have a couple of hands up too. So we'll endeavor to run through these. But Matt at Baker Hughes, let me turn to you first, and then Matt at Hillwood, you'll be on deck.
Thanks, Steve. So I'm Matt Armstrong. I handle government affairs for Baker Hughes out of DC. And thank you, Dr. Najjar. As always, we appreciate your engagement with the U.S. business community. Thank you for being here, and thanks again at the Chamber for setting it up. And congratulations on the success of the Invest in Youth program. That sounds amazing.
We're very happy. We were very happy with that. Yeah,
that's an incredible return. Yeah, to your goal. So first off, I wanted to highlight really quickly a critical reform that you mentioned in your opening remarks. And that was the adoption of a more sophisticated mechanism for evaluating tenders, one that focuses, as I understood you, not only on price, but on the balance of price and qualification. And I can just tell you from the Baker Hughes perspective, that is a key consideration to attracting the latest technology and ensuring that the total cost of ownership is factored in, as well as the upfront CapEx. This is an important gloss on the tender process, and one in jurisdictions where we've seen kind of the considerations that you described adopted, one that does indeed speed up the adoption of the latest technology and successfully attracts more foreign interest and otherwise risky ventures. So that's a comment. A brief question. Our chairman and CEO, I think, as you know, Lorenzo Simonelli, was in Baghdad at the beginning of this week to celebrate with a virtual groundbreaking in the construction of our modular natural gas liquids plant for Nasir and Al Gharaf. That plant will ultimately get to 200 million cubic feet a day of gas capture for power gen. And of course, that gas to power concept is a strong component of the Total Energies deal that you announced last week. And congratulations as well on that. Is there more to come? Is there more in the pipeline on that gas to power front from your perspective? And are there barriers that remain to rapid expansion of the gas to power market in Iraq?
I don't know of the specific projects because the oil ministry, the projects that are related to oil are outside the remit of the National Investment Commission. I do work closely with them, like, on the Khairat project, on the Total project, but I can assure you that, gas flaring and the gas issue is a priority for the government at the moment for various considerations. So I do apologize if I do not know, and I don't think Currently, we have specific projects that we're working on. With the Total project has taken a lot of our efforts and resources, but I'm confident that there will be more to come in the future.
Yes, thank you. That's apologies if I was unclear.
I mean, it's not a
That's all
sufficient
I meant.
answer, but I need to talk to the oil minister because, as I told you, the power projects outside electricity are mostly within the government of oil. They do their own thing. So I do apologize if my answer is not sufficient.
Not at all. I was asking merely for the trajectory from your perspective, the relative importance of these projects within the development plan for the country. And if you see continued intense efforts across government to address that. And it sounds as though you do.
We do. There was this one project that I know that Baker Hughes also was looking at for their respective business is the Ratawi project and the Mansouriya project, and which was just had landed at Total. And we were into negotiations with a number of vendors on that, but Total finally got it as the investor. And I know they're talking to a number of American companies for the equipment. But this was a breakthrough for us in this area.
Very good. Thank you.
Yeah, and it is absolutely a critical area to continue to engage in. I know a lot of U.S. companies are interested in continuing to explore those gas flaring and gas to power projects. But let me pivot to Ahmad Zeiss at Hillwood, or their co-chair, and then Mohammed at P&G. You've been patient. I know we've got other hands coming up. So Matt, turn it to you.
Thanks, Steve, and Dr. Najjar. Thank you so much for joining us, and it was good to see you in August here for the strategic dialogue. I'll make my question brief because I see a lot of hands, as Steve noted, and I think we all are united together here in our participation with the chamber and our interest and our current investment in Iraq. And so I say this question from a company that continues to invest in Iraq among the community of companies that look to Iraq as an investment opportunity. I would hope that you could help us understand Iraq's new decision to implement the 2019 law that restricts companies from operating in Iraq with a majority foreign ownership, because it seems that has caused a reverberation on investors thinking about coming to Iraq. And so your thoughts on that would be greatly appreciated.
Sure. And thank you for raising up this issue because it's causing us a lot of headaches, and we've had an issue with the stock market lately, even though the size of our stock market is the size of the smallest company on NASDAQ. But still, it's a venue that we take very seriously. We're looking to change this law. This law was done in an arbitrary manner, even it's drafted in a very weak language, and I tell you, it's something that should not have been allowed. And Finance Minister, Mr. Ali Alawi, we discussed this at the Economic Committee last week. We are going to propose to of course, because it's a law, it will have to go through Parliament. And as you know, we have elections on the 10th of October, and after that, it will be some time for the government to be formed. So we can cancel this law only when Parliament resumes, but we're starting the lobbying. I've even spoken to as you know, the Parliament has like various committees. The head of the Finance Committee, Dr. Haytham Choukouri, and he's very supportive that this law should be cancelled. This law should not have been allowed to start with. Hopefully we'll be able to cancel it. At the moment, we can't do anything about it until it gets cancelled, but this is something that even the Prime Minister got engaged at this discussion, and he was actually approved that something like this was managed, and relatively recently, you know, in 2019, when these things just don't happen anymore. You don't like monopoly doesn't exist anymore, controlling ownership, controlling capital repatriation, these things don't exist. We live in an open economy. So for something like this to have been passed in the past was wrong. And we will be looking to amend it. You just need to allow us some time till Parliament resumes its session after the elections.
Thank you for the question, Matt. I know it was on a lot of people's minds, and Dr. Suha, thank you for responding on that. Because I do know it is out there in the press, so comments like yours help kind of recreate that narrative. But I would say perception is reality, so that that is out there. So to the extent we can help people understand what the intention is, to, as you said, basically undo that or reverse that, that's very important.
Yes.
Procter & Gamble, let me come to you, and then I know we have some other hands raised. So Mohammed, please, you're up.
Thank you, Steve. Dr. Suha, thank you so much for your time. First, my name is Mohammed Al-Daba. I work for Government Relations and Public Policy in Procter & Gamble. And let me also thank you for the enthusiasm and the ownership that you speak with, along with stating the key facts. It's both is showing how Iraq is moving, inshallah, into the right direction when it comes to economy. Thank you so much for that. So I will pinpoint 2 points, and I will offer something from Procter & Gamble on this, that you wanted to fight corruption with all of these actions that you're taking inside the country, as well as increase the qualified talents and calibers inside Iraq. So I am coming from Procter & Gamble, right? Not the big size business or the big mega projects. I'm from the retail sector, which is the products that everyone in the call uses every day, as well as lots of other, I would say, companies, maybe American or not, are also concerned with this fact of the Iraqi standards of these retail products. So what we are offering to yourself as well, because I think that you are sort of the link with all the government in Iraq, based on what you stated, that we want to cooperate with Ministry of Planning, especially the COQSC, the Hayat al-Taqis wal-Muwasafat. So we can cooperate as companies together to upgrade the current standards in Iraq for the retail products. Unfortunately, lots and lots of the standards in Iraq for the retail products specifically are really outdated. Some of them are since 1980s, which is preventing the new technologies from entering the country, or let me state it in the right way, preventing the new technologies from entering Iraq in an illegal way and open a lane for the unofficial trade to happen across the borders of Iraq, unfortunately. And hence, this is the second point that we want to talk about, how we can cooperate as well, not only with the Ministry of Planning, but also with Ministry of Finance, especially the customs authorities, on controlling the borders and fighting the counterfeit products. So we are more than happy. We start with P&G, and then we can expand this to lots of retail companies across the region, multinational ones, how we can raise capability and cooperate with the two authorities to upgrade the standards and make more control on the borders to fight these two points. And again, I really, really thank you, and I hope you all the best of what you're doing. And I'm looking forward really to cooperate on these two areas. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Two very important points, because these are one of the serious problems that we have in Iraq today. The entity, which is جهاز التقييس والسيطرة النوعية, in English, this is the entity that monitors the quality of imports into Iraq and products into Iraq in general. And I agree with you. The standards that we use are dated, but some of it is dated by nature and some of it is human intervention, because we get flooded by products from our neighbors and from all over the world. And I assure you that whoever exports into Iraq exports the lowest quality products that they have, unfortunately. And it's something that saddens me to say that, but you have to remember that we've been a country under oppression for a very long time. We opened our gates and we faced floods. The quality of imports, even within the same manufacturer, you see the quality of the same product in another country, you can tell it's a better quality, it tastes differently, the detergents, everything. Because we are a huge consumption market, companies unfortunately get away with it. But as a proud Iraqi and as an official, I resent it, because it affects the health of our new generation and it affects us in every way. Unfortunately, having a dated quality control system does not help. So we hugely welcome the opportunity for you to make a proposal. I'll take you to the Ministry of Planning. Maybe you'll need a couple of sessions with them to just understand the existing system and get familiar with it. and maybe we'll have to use like, you know, a neutral company, but a company of your name and reputation. We'll be happy to receive a proposal to upgrade the system, because I tell you, we're all unhappy about it. We want to improve the quality of imports into Iraq. Of course, I mean, there's no secret that that corruption is something that we face every day, but I do believe with updated systems and with automation, we can eradicate a big chunk of it. In terms of the border control, upgrading the systems that the quality control entity within the Ministry of Planning is the easiest part, is the easier part, this is why I mentioned it before. Upgrading the border control, this is an issue that I'm sure there's a, you understand, there's a political and security issue within it. Our current Prime Minister is very firm on that, and we're trying to, you know, have peaceful relationships with our neighbors. But the border control is an issue that's important. We get smuggling into Iraq, and this is an issue also that we need to control. These smuggling are done by militias, and those militias are armed militias. We're increasingly strengthening the authority and the power of our own army and of our own government, and as these strengthen, the stronger we are, the more able we are to control our borders. They are much better than we were last year. But this issue, I mean, we're happy for you to look at it, but I tell you, it is not an issue of systems and of automation. It's an issue of security and an issue of the, you know, the militias and the political situation that we live in. So we wait for you to come to Iraq and make a proposal, and I'll take you to see the Ministry of Planning and the Ministry of Finance. We're looking to automate them, so maybe you can help us there.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I'll talk to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mohammed. Thank you. Very important points that you've raised here, and we really do look forward in supporting your efforts and those ideas as well. We've got 3 hands raised, Dr. Suha, so we'll quickly endeavor, and I know we're also right up on the hour, so we'll try to run through these. I think we'll have to take these 3, and that will be it. Let me go to Adela at State, and then we've got Dawood, and then I see Mohammed from SIPE, and then it looks like one more old school hand raised, not the Zoom hand. So we'll squeeze. We'll do our best here. So Della, we'll go to you, and then Dawood and SIPE.
Good morning. My name is Della Ram. I go by Della, but if anyone can pronounce the Persian name, I would prefer that. I am just here to introduce myself. I'm new to the Iraq desk, but I'm not new to the Department of State. 18 years in the Middle East. I'm on Abu Dhabi, Riyadh, with my kids, with my family. I've done it all. And I come to the State Department from the private sector, where for about a decade, I was a business development person for a Fortune 100 company. I'm a political affairs officer. And on this rotation, I'm heading up the anti-corruption efforts, as well as economic reform. And I'm working on a focus for Iraqi Kurdistan as well, to be more incorporated into the greater picture of economic development and opportunities. I am a refugee myself from Tehran to the Washington area back during the Islamic Revolution. So I'm probably the most Anglo-Saxon Iranian you've ever met, because I was raised here. I am just back from 6 weeks on the Afghanistan task force, where I worked on the Secretary's detail, all in several of the missions. So I'm sorry to be a little bit late to this rotation, but I am here, and I would like to get to know everyone in Washington and beyond. I'm very tech savvy, so happy to do virtual meetings. And my one specific question, Dr. Najjar, thank you very much for the excellent presentation. It would be very helpful to me as I begin my work on the Iraq desk to have a list of projects that are coming up, the list of projects that you are doing, so that I have specifically on my radar what is happening, what you want to do for especially the youth projects, the forward-leaning projects, And any issues with anti-corruption, please send them my way. Thank you so much, and feel free to look me up on LinkedIn or send me an email, and I'm looking forward to meeting everyone and learning from you. Thank you.
Steve, if you allow me, I know it's a request rather than a question, but I want to highlight an issue here because we always get asked to show us what investment opportunities you have. It doesn't really work like that, especially here in Iraq, because we have the investment map. This is on our website, but I tell you, it's almost it gives you an idea of Iraq and what you can do in it. But I think in terms of specific projects, I admit it's redundant because I mean it gives you the idea, but come and chase a project is not offered for investment. There's various hurdles in translating the projects we have in the investment map. But if you read it, it will give you a good view of what you can do in Iraq. Because we need to gather a lot of approvals and there's a lot of preparations to offer a project, what we do is that we work, for example, on the solar companies and on the power projects and on the housing projects. We get all the approvals, we ready the project, and then we put it in a public tender. It's on our website. And the minute we put it in a public tender, it's gone because we have strong competition for projects here in Iraq. So there isn't as such as a list of projects that are ready to invest in because the projects that are ready are taken. And as we ready them, we offer them and they get taken and henceforth. But you can check our website, as I said, for the investment maps, for the investment ideas. And also you can check our website because all the projects that are ready and we put out in public tenders go out in our website.
Thank you for that. And Dalaram, welcome to the file. And we do look forward to working with you and meeting up. Dawood, I'm going to come to you then, as I said, Mohammed at SAIP, and then our friend from W Investors Group. I think you'll have the final comment question. So Dawood.
Dr. Najjar and Steve, thank you very much for this opportunity and for this event. We're really glad to hear from Dr. Najjar. Her work and leadership echoes everywhere. My name is Dawood Salman. I work at Al Iraqi LLC based in Virginia. We help foreign investors and companies work and invest in Iraq. One of the common issues that our clients face is the newly enacted law. It's not newly since 2017, but it concerns foreign companies registration in Iraq. Most of our investors have companies that have been established for less than 2 years in Iraq, abroad, and they would like to invest in Iraq, and they have an issue with the companies law, with the foreign companies, the branch law is that they have to be in existence for 2 years or more to be able to bid on to apply for the investment license and to obtain their foreign registration license from the Ministry of Trade. I'm sorry if I disconnected.
No, go ahead.
Yes, and we heard that a couple of weeks ago, the Council of Ministers has issued an exemption from the 2-year in existence provision in the foreign companies law. It was granted to the Basra Energy Company. We would like to ask if this opportunity is available for all investors. How long does it take? What is the process to obtain that exemption from the Council of Ministers? And thank you again.
Okay. Yes, it is an issue. Registering a company here is an issue. But the way we're going around it in the National Investment Commission, now one of our requirements is that it has to be a locally registered company. But because of all those hiccups, we now grant licenses to foreign, so we can grant the license and we put a condition upon it that you need to establish a company in Iraq. So at the National Investment Commission, I don't know what the other government entities, what they're required, because each government entity, when it puts out a tender or a contract, they have their own conditions. But at the National Investment Commission now, we've started giving licenses to foreign companies without having a registered local company. It's something that we ask them to do later on down the line, but at the National Investment Commission, I overcame that hurdle, and we would be happy to license foreign companies without them establishing a local presence.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Thank you, Steve and Anne.
Well, thank you, Dawood. Important points. Mohammed and Suha, you may know National Enterprise is an affiliate of the Chamber doing phenomenal work in Iraq and across the region. And Mohammed heads up that effort with specific responsibilities for Iraq. So Mohammed, let me turn to you for your comment or question.
Thank you so much, Steve. This is a great opportunity, and we are very glad to meet you, Dr. Najjar. With your leadership, we are really optimistic that investment in Iraq will be advancing. Like Steve mentioned, we are SIPE, the Center for International Private Enterprise. We are affiliated to the U.S. Chamber of Commerce and also affiliated to the National Endowment for Democracy, NED. So we work to strengthen democracy around the globe through the private enterprise and market-oriented reform. Our project in Iraq goes back to 2003. We supported the private sector to be an influential partner in economic development and to also have a significant role in policy and economic policy making. I know we are over time. I just wanted to share with you some of the results that we got from a number of investors among whom we conducted a survey. I will limit my question. I know there are several issues here. The most important thing is that they feel the investment environment in Iraq is not, it needs work to be welcoming and supporting for investors. And this is a holistic question and needs more time. But I will limit my question to the one-stop shop. We are curious to know about your plans on enforcing that and make it easier for investors to have all of their procedures in one place and in a timely manner. So thank you so much, and we are again very glad to meet you today.
Thank you, Mohammed, for the question. I just want to go back to your comment of Iraq not being very welcoming. I understand that, but I urge the whole world to give us credit. What has happened in Iraq has not happened in other countries. What we've seen starting from the previous regime of Saddam Hussein and what happened there, and then the attacks after 2003 and the destruction and the ISIS. So after all that, we're not going to be Switzerland or New York, So when a statement like this is mentioned, please have this in the back of your mind and understand why people think that. I started my analysis by telling you that Iraq is open for business now because we've taken some bold decisions that no previous governments were able to take. We're facing some serious threats, even as officials, in taking those decisions and threats. And I'm talking like really serious threats here. So we're facing a great deal of difficulties to put Iraq on the right path. We're doing it. We've succeeded. We've put it on the beginning, and I'm hoping that we will complete. We'll see it right through until it becomes more welcoming. So the world needs to give us some credit for what we're trying to achieve, given what Iraq has gone through. In terms of the one-stop shop, or we call it one window, the one-stop shop is at the heart of what the Investment Commission offers. It basically receives the investment application and receives your project. It coordinates with the various entities within the Commission, and then outside the Commission, all the ministerial permits and approvals. Now, this has always been a serious problem because if it does not function as it should, we issue the license and then the investor never gets to complete his project because he needs to go through the bureaucracy and the corruption of getting all the approvals. So what we've done today is that we activated it. We activated it in the first part of activating it is done, which basically is that we do not issue licenses without the approvals, the necessary approval. So when we give a license, we give the license for the investor to enable him to work straight away so that we avoid the fictional or the uncompleted projects plague that we have here in Iraq. So the license that you get takes a little bit of time, but it's a complete license. Now, why can't we move a bit faster? Because we get approvals from a number of ministries. The representatives of those ministries are not authorized signatories on those approvals, so he has to go back to the minister. And this is what I'm asking for, is that whoever is representing the relevant ministry and the investment commission needs to have the authority to sign and to give approvals. When I reach that point, I tell you that we're going to be that will speed up the investment process or the licensing process by at least 80%. So the first one is that you'll get your license with the permit, with the approvals, necessary approvals. The second part is the timing. We're working on that.
Perfect. Thank you so much again, Dr. Najjar. This is very important. And again, it's definitely, this was, the first question regarding the environment. It's definitely, we totally agree that it is a huge effort, and it needs collaboration from several stakeholders and entities in order to, to have an environment, because it has to do with the rule of law, with regulations, with the enforcement, with so many parts, and we totally agree with the conditions that took place in Iraq, and highly recognize and appreciate your efforts in improving that, and and also in collaborating with other entities to improve that. So. That is totally appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, Mohammed. And I might be so bold as to suggest, feel free to share, your survey results and the report readouts from your, what you've totaled up in terms of the opinions of the investors. I think, Dr. Suha would probably find that quite interesting. So glad to make the connection and share that information, because it does do a really deep dive into a whole host of areas. So we got one final question, I think, from our friend at W Investors Group. You had your hand up, if I saw right on camera. So I think you're on mute, but glad to turn it over to you for the final question. Anna, correct me if I'm wrong. Feel free to jump in here if I'm.
Indeed, yes, sir. If you can kindly unmute for your question.
There we go.
Please proceed. Do you have a question, sir? Please go ahead.
For me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Najjar. Thank you for the presentation. I'm an Iraqi American, and I think we met in Detroit. We had the honor of you visiting us here in Detroit and meeting with the community here in Detroit. Estimated about 5 million expatriates are outside Iraq, Iraqi expatriates. And we discussed, I think during your visit, that maybe it would be beneficial to have a liaison person within your office to tap into the wealth of knowledge and wealth of capital and expertise of expatriates outside Iraq. And based on that, we were thinking of maybe the NIC could create a village within the Rafal city that would be for expatriate village that encourages expatriates to have a second home in Iraq and continue to strengthen the ties between the expatriates in Iraq, including their kids and their second generation and third generation. And I believe that would encourage expatriates to come back and participate in investment, participate in rebuilding Iraq, participate in many factors within the society. And I think it will encourage, Iraqis to come back to Iraq and invest. And I don't know what is your opinion of tapping into the expatriates outside Iraq from all over the world?
Of course, we will tap into anything that's offered to us at the moment, because we're in need of many things. I remember that we had this discussion, if you recall, in a conference call a couple of weeks back. Of course, we welcome the expatriates, we welcome their expertise, we welcome their enthusiasm, and we welcome their capital. As far as the Rafid city is concerned, or let's say the central locations in Iraq, we do have a severe shortage in housing. The estimated need is 3 million units in Iraq today. So our priority is, frankly, to build houses for the indigenous population. Especially, these people work here, and, people who live in Iraq, we need to be located centrally in order to move around. So we'll be happy to discuss an expatriate village. But honestly, any investments at the moment and any land at the moment will have to focus on meeting the indigenous population's requirements, and we need 3 million units. We need to meet this demand. Iraq is a vast country. We can offer you so many other projects outside, but in Baghdad, the situation, I cannot allocate land for expatriates as a second home when I cannot house my own people. But there's lots of other projects you can look at, but the priority at the moment is to provide housing for the local population. But feel free to bring in your money and build it.
Okay, because I understand that you guys allocated a chunk of land for I'mar without going through the
well, I'mar,
process.
Yes, of course. But let me tell you, we have a vast amount of land, but I'mar is going to build houses for the local population. It's not for expatriates. I'm not belittling at all, and I'm saying, Iraq is a vast country. But for Baghdad, we're working around the clock here to meet the local housing demand, and that's what we're doing. I'mar is, we have a full proposal from them, and the houses that will be built for the local population. There are certain projects that we do not do through public tenders, but at this stage, we're very, very keen, and we will go overboard to bring in renowned international names that will build and deliver, and thus the license for I'mar.
Thank you.
Okay.
Well, thank you for raising the point in general and broadly. And I see Dr. Miri on screen, and I think the idea, Dr. Suha, of tapping into just the expertise and the financing and bringing to the table what the expat community does. At the chamber, you don't necessarily need us to help liaise with that, but to the extent we can help facilitate, we would love to do that, because I do know there's so much knowledge and global expertise that I know that can be brought to bear, and again, help Iraq at the end of the day and be an economic catalyst. So we're thankful for those thoughts and ideas. Dr. Suha, I know again we're over time, but I do want to give you the opportunity for any kind of final recollections, observations that you'd like to make before we close up today.
Yes, I just simply like to thank you, Steve, and thank everyone for attending this session and for the brilliant questions, because these questions show real knowledge of the problems, and these questions come from practitioners who clearly have operated in Iraq. So we thank everyone for that. As I said, we're putting Iraq on the right path, and let's start changing our view. Iraq is not a hotspot for terrorists. Iraq is, yes, not very hostile, have been very hostile, but if we decide to look at it from a different angle and see the good work that's been done, the good indicators that we're seeing investors coming in today without asking for a sovereign guarantee. We're seeing investors today coming with their own funding, something that we only dreamt of a few years back. So we're on the right path. Keep an eye on Iraq. It might be the next promising emerging market. Thank you very much.
Well, Dr. Suha, as always, we do appreciate all of your efforts. I know I didn't even remember, it seems like you've been at this for a while, but happy 1-year anniversary. And we do look forward to continuing to work with you, and thank you for the time today. And again, your overview, but then also some of the more granular points you've taken out. And thank you everybody else for the comments, questions, and dialogue today. We greatly value that. And we do look forward to continuing this conversation and all of these efforts. So with that, we'll adjourn. And Dr. Suha, thank you very much. And we do look forward to staying in touch and following up on some of these points that were raised today. But thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr.
For the
Suha.
rest of the day.
Thank you, Anna. Have a great day.